UK political editor Kevin Schofield and journalist Benjamin Butterworth. So welcome back to both of you.
Oh.
And we should reflect really on the story that's dominating the front pages, and that's what Keir Starmer's next step might be when it comes to winter fuel allowance and the two-child benefit cap.
Yep.
And we've looked at the Sunday Telegraph goes with Nigel Farage, perhaps intervening and committing to those things, and also the Observer. But the Sunday Times covers it as well, doesn't it? So Kevin, what's their angle on this?
Yeah, so they're talking about how this winter fuel U-turn that Keir Starmer announced on Wednesday at Prime Minister's Questions, how that will actually be implemented. Because I think it raised an awful lot of questions at the time. All he said was they would look at ways to make more pensioners eligible. Now, at the moment, if you earn more or you receive more than £11,500 as a pensioner, you don't get it, which means a lot of relatively poor pensioners are obviously missing out. But it's not quite as simple as saying, well, we'll make it 20,000 because of the way that the tax system works and the benefit system. It's just very difficult. So what the Sunday Times are saying is what they will probably do is basically give it to everyone again, but those who are higher rate earners will have it taken off them again in the tax system. So it's a bit like when George Osborne, if you remember, means-tested child benefit way back during the coalition years. That's how they did it, basically. Anyone who's on a higher rate of tax doesn't get it. And that's probably the easiest, the less messy way of doing it. But it just shows how tricky it is. It's quite easy. Well, one, they shouldn't have done it in the first place. It's been such a politically damaging decision. But two, to then U-turn on it is just so complicated and complex and difficult and just messy. And it just makes the government look pretty bad. And it's annoyed so many people for very little political benefit now, I think.
And the other side is that, you know, when they put that 100% tax on high earners so they effectively don't get the child benefit, well, that's fine because practically everyone that's child benefit is in working age, right? But the difference is that wealthy pensioners probably don't have an income coming in that puts them in that kind of tax bracket. And so, you know, the number of pensioners that are going to be earning, whatever, £125,000 is going to be absolutely tiny and not necessarily reflective of who has considerable assets and resource to be able to afford it. So if that's the only way they do it, then it's not going to cut many people out at all.
No, and it takes away the argument which was initially, oh, we shouldn't be giving it to millionaires, effectively. And I think everyone agrees with that. You know, most people do agree with that. But, in effect, they will be, and then trying to claw it back in some way, and, you know, if they can.
In the meantime, more people, which was, I guess, a benefit of the policy, more people signed up for their proper sort of pension credits and other things they're entitled to that they hadn't before. There was not great sign-up to that. So, while that's good for those people that were entitled to that money, for the Exchequer, you know, this looks quite plausibly that they will be spending more money on this by 2 years' time than they were when they came into government, and they lost so much political capital in the process.
Yeah,
and if they lift the two-child benefit cap, and there's a lot of speculation that might be the case. What does that mean for those who are uncomfortable about not just those elements of the government's policies, but also the welfare cuts as well? Does that diffuse that sense of rebellion on the backbenches?
I mean, I think it will with a lot of them. I think it's around about 150 at the moment have said to the Chief Whip, we can't vote for these welfare cuts. I think lifting the two-child benefit cap on top of the winter fuel U-turn might persuade quite a few of them. All right, we'll give the government the benefit of the doubt, but it won't persuade all of them. And it just shows, you know, there's still another big problem there politically for the government, because they're still going to be bringing in these big cuts to things like personal independence payments, which again go down very badly with a lot of Labour MPs. So, and also the question is, well, hang on a minute, okay, if you do all of this, where is the money coming from? Because we've been told repeatedly by Rachel Reeves, we need to do this £22 billion black hole, etc., fiscal rules. Does this mean that taxes are going to have to go up in order to pay for it? Well, that's not going to go down terribly well either.
But I think that lifting the two-child cap will go down extremely well, because that could lift out almost 500,000 children from poverty and is the fastest and most reliable way to do that. And so I think Labour MPs will be thrilled at that. You might remember when they came into government, there's some MPs that voted against the King's speech because they wanted to get rid of the two-child cap, and they were suspended from the party, and it was a bit of a mess. So I think Labour MPs will be thrilled.
If it happens, of course. And the suggestion that it may not be announced until the budget because they've got to work out how they do pay for it.
It's going to be a big budget. It's going to be a big budget. Yeah.
Let's move on to a story in the Sunday Times about a British doctor, Benjamin.
So we always talk about the shortage of doctors and medical staff is very real, but it turns out that lots of Brits who have qualified as doctors are not getting the placements as doctors in the NHS that they want to, which is extraordinary. And so people that they qualify as a doctor and then they want to specialise as a GP or a surgeon or another part of the health system, they have to compete with people from overseas for those roles, a change that Matt Hancock introduced. But Wes Streeting, the current health secretary, is going to change that so that Brits get the precedent for those roles. And he says it's absurd that we've got out of that system and that, you know, people that we've paid to train are then not able to get the speciality in surgery or whatever it is that they want, which sounds like, you know, distinctly sensible. I suppose the flip side is when you have a shortage of people to do the jobs, you know, does it matter to the patient whether they were born in Switzerland or Ghana or whether they were born in London?
I mean, are these doctors then who can't get jobs, they're trained up here, British doctors, and can't get jobs here, presumably they have to then go abroad?
Well, that must be the reality, because you can imagine it would feel like a kick in the teeth. You know, it's extremely hard to get through medical training and to get a place because we don't train many doctors in the first place. There's quite small numbers. So I think you'd be pretty off-put if that were the case. And when Australia is offering much better salaries and much more sunlight, you see why they do it.
Yeah, indeed. Let's move to the Mail, and this is the birth of Boris Johnson's 9th child, 4th with Carrie, his wife, of course. And what's the Mail's take on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice pictures up. Actually, I think which brings this story to life. There's a picture of Romy, who's Boris Johnson's other daughter, with Carrie Johnson, his wife, her holding her little sister. Boris Johnson, their picture. I did think it's a bit odd, though. He's sitting in a hospital with his suit jacket on. It seems a bit, you know what I mean, a bit formal,
Is
really.
that jeans and a suit jacket?
Classic Boris Johnson. He doesn't match up terribly well. He's not a great fashion icon, I think it's safe to say. But yeah, classically, Carrie put all this on Instagram yesterday, as she's very fond of doing, saying that we're going to celebrate with pizza and pina colada, the arrival of his 9th. Believe it or not, I mean, he's 60 years old. He's just had another
extraordinary
kid. I mean, he'll be working till he's 100.
Yeah.
To pay for all these children, I think.
I mean, we have a birth rate crisis in this country.
He's doing his bit.
You know, we give him credit is due. He's helping repopulate.
I'd say, you know, credibility for the pizza and pina colada combo. Quite like the idea of that.
I know.
Very quickly,
for that.
30 seconds to talk about how we've got a screen-demic.
Yes. So one of the leading doctors for children's psychiatry says that they're seeing many cases where kids are barely speaking to each other. They're just glazed over, staring at their screen. And she wants the government to introduce new rules. So a Labour MP, Josh McAllister, wants public health medics to give advice for parents on this and to change the rules.
As a parent, I think it's a very good idea.
Yeah, good idea. We're out of time. Thank you both.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered.